Hello, and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are what are they? They are the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grant Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep our conversations open for the public and on the level to interact with us. We love seeing you live every Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern Time on Facebook and YouTube. So, hello and good evening. We love seeing the chats. We can't get to all comments, but remember your comments may show up on the show. So make sure that everything is on the level. And if you can't catch us live, catch us on the replay or in your favorite podcasting app. You know me. I'll never get the introduction right, but I at least get a little bit better every time. John Ruark, past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia. Isn't that right, Joe?
I don't know. I've been watching you have like kind of a quasi stroke for the last 90 seconds. So I hope it's right. But
yeah,
great to see you. Hi.
Good to
Joe
see
Martinez.
you.
What am I? Past master, Manassas Lodge, number 182 in Manassas, Virginia. Past master.
Woo.
Yeah, for now. Yeah, and a member of other things and stuff. And as always, damn glad to be here.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So it's always super cool to have you here and to have the patrons who support the show. You guys are awesome and rock our socks.
And gal, we have gal Patreons.
We do.
Yes. So thank you for all the support. We absolutely love it.
And friends, right? You don't need to be a Mason to subscribe. So
no, just be a lover of things that we do, and we reciprocate in kind.
Indeed.
Yeah, and if you join, you get super secret access to our super secret Facebook group because we're Gen X millennials, so we're all over Facebook. That's our job, right?
We've got the hottest GeoCities website.
Yes,
waiting for you.
I'll let you into the private AOL instant messenger chat. Okay.
ASL, buddy. Patreon.com/the Masonic Roundtable.
Yes. 2 balls and a stick. That's what it's called. Yeah. That's right. But that's where we do our super secret things. But yeah.
Yes, indeed. And while Joe gets his deck ready.
Crap. Okay.
Because we're doing that. Did you know? Did you know that we actually have a regular segment here that we like to call Tarot Card of the Week? Where did Joe go? He disappeared. Did you like preemptively just
I didn't know I was doing Tarot Card of the Week. No. But yeah, we're gonna show some love. Since I totally pulled an audible. We're gonna show it to our good friend Metal Drew. And we're gonna whip out the Godfather tarot deck. This was a gift from Metal Drew. Good to see it. Just saw him. Went to Jersey a couple weeks ago to another good friend of ours, Andy Christopher. Went to his lodge. Fun. You've been there, right?
I have. Beautiful lodge. Great brothers.
Awesome.
Good events. Good pizza.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I'm a New Yorker by birth. So there is a stigmata associated with Jersey. So, but it was okay. It was all right. But got to see our good friend Metal Drew. And yeah, I'm shuffling these cards and I'm going to continue to jibber jabber.
So
as
pizza was a B+.
Yeah, I'd say a B+ without ChatGPT cheating. Like it was decent work. Good work, square work.
Nice.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So on the that's interesting. We've got let me get it in here. The Page of Wands.
All right. What's the scene there?
What is that? What is that? I can't tell.
It's not a dead body, is it?
No, there's something bloody. But damn, yeah. It's not the horse head.
No.
Yeah, is that a fish maybe?
Oh.
Yeah.
The Page of Wands is all about.
I can't figure out what the hell this card is. Yeah.
So traditionally, Page of Wands is enthusiasm, new beginnings, free spirit, ready to go conquer the world, new projects. This is the active fire, connotation. So it's not quite the Knight of Wands, which is just like charging forward and kicking butt and taking names, but it's the beginning. It's being excited about something new.
Yes. I'm excited about trying to figure out what this damn card is. Because I can't figure it out for the life of me.
It's the most obscure picture.
Yeah, and the lovely book, if anybody has this tarot deck, the lovely book, which you think is a tarot guide, no, it's the history of the Corleone family. So yeah, you're not going to find info.
It's not helpful at all.
But they shoved it into this really big box. So
it's cool though.
Yeah, it is cool. It's fun. But I will have an answer by next week on what this card is. I'm going to do some research and figure it out. Okay.
Sweet. Alrighty.
Speaking of research, what are we learning about today, John?
We are on our third and final part of the 3-part series on Is Freemasonry? Insert your favorite political party here. Right. Because it's election season, we only have days until the United States presidential election wraps up. At least we hope so, and doesn't go on for many more months after that. We thought it'd be fun to compare and contrast, as we did with the previous episodes, the different political parties and their values and issues, and see how that compares to Masonic ideals. So, additional disclaimers apply for this set of episodes to include, remember, it is a sensitive subject, so this is why we don't talk about politics or religion inside of Lodge, but we tried, and I think we've succeeded for the past 2 episodes, to have a good social discourse on politics that was respectful and did not try to, stir the pot too much. We are not advocating that Freemasonry be a political party, nor the other way around. We're not advocating that this one party is the party of Freemasons. We are merely looking at the values and issues of each party, and we'll try to align Masonic ideals to the party where it makes sense. As a reminder, this is not an endorsement of any party nor political candidate. And we ourselves are spread across the political spectrum for a variety of reasons. So, it's fun. It's fun to talk.
Well, listen, I love the caveats we've been giving. It's super great. I understand more so than most, because I always need to watch what I say, that they're necessary things, right?
Yes.
But, I think we have very short-term memory when it comes to Freemasonry and politics, right? Because on the one hand, and I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, it just always strikes me as interesting. Yes, like politics and religion are taboo inside the lodge room, inside the temple, right?
Right.
And
so therefore, you can never talk about it anywhere else.
No, that's not what that means.
Oh, right.
You can talk about it in the parking lot. You can talk about it in the dining hall.
Oh.
But they should not intrude upon the business of Masonry, right? The great work that we do in the lodge room when it is open. And but I will say this: I just find it striking, right, that we have these rules in place to promote harmony. Totally get that. I love that.
Yep.
On the other hand, we've got a bunch of Freemasons that love to espouse the fact that we are a Masonic nation, right? This nation was founded by Freemasons with Masonic ideals. So those dudes 250 years ago were absolutely talking about politics.
It is very ironic. Let's call it for what it is.
Right? If we want to go old school, you had Masons that met for lodge to then go do political things to lament the way that their government had been treating them, so, but that's why they went to
spot of tea. Yes.
Just a bit of tea, right? And then a pint afterwards, right? When you were allowed to drink in Masonry, when it was fun. Like I said, I just find that kind of ironic. We love to espouse the fact that this is a Masonic nation, yet we don't do politics in Masonry anymore.
Indeed.
Yeah. But so libertarianism.
Yes, so we decided this week for the last one to pick the third largest political party in the United States, which is a far third from the previous 2, but still one that's interesting enough because of its political platform. As usual, do we want to start with a little bit of history of the Libertarian Party?
It's a much
it is the baby, yeah.
time. Yeah, so we're not going to go into the 19th century.
Mhm.
We're going to go into that far back period of time for you Gen Alphas and Gen Zs, the 20th century,
The 1900s.
the 1900s.
Yes.
You ever seen that meme on social media where it's like you got that teacher that's like totally sad? It's like, oh, a student asked me today if I could cite sources from the 1900s, and my heart dropped. And I was like,
Oh. Or like, you know, when I got carded for alcohol, and they said it was okay because they just saw 19 before my birth date, so they said you're good.
you're good to go. Yes, but I mean, honestly, going back to the intro part of it, it's interesting because this is the most we've talked about the election and politics in this house in a long time. Because I've got a 19-year-old now who this is the first election that she's able to participate in. So she registered to vote. She was super proud.
That's exciting.
So every day at dinner, I'm having a political discussion, answering questions about what is going on in the world today. So yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, just like the lodge room, we talk about it respectfully.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But
Again,
yeah,
if we could do that everywhere.
if only.
If only.
Yes. So who and what is this Libertarian Party, and where the hell did it come from? Well, all the way back in the 1900s, 1970s to be precise. 1971 was the founding of the Libertarian Party. And it was founded in Colorado Springs in December of 1971 by someone named David Nolan. Okay. And it was really a small group of political activists that were responsible for starting this third party. But the Libertarian Party emerged in response to a lot of things that were going on in the country during that time, right? So you got to remember 1971, you had Republican and Democratic parties that were very diametrically opposed to one another, right? This is when you really started to have, kind of like you do today, a wide field between the Republican and the Democratic parties in terms of platform and what they want to talk about and what their mission and vision is. So
Good thing we're not like that today.
No, we are much more enlightened.
We're much more unified.
Yes.
50 years later.
That's right. So again, 50 years ago, you had one of the primary reasons why the Libertarian Party was formed was in response to our country's movement and actions during the Vietnam War. The increase of government in everyday life that started to really trickle in the 1970s. And there was really a growing concern among some of the population over personal liberties and freedom when it comes to our economy. Right. So those were some of the big major issues, which kind of dips into their core ideology, which I'm going to let John talk about. But a year after they were founded, they had 1972, they threw up a presidential candidate. Okay. So within a year of their founding, they're already playing with the big boys. Now, this nation has never been a strong third party system when it came to government and governing and things like that. But they came on the scene pretty quickly, and they started to get a lot of support to the point where they actually ran a candidate. So I believe the candidate was named John Hotspurs, was the first presidential candidate in 1972, and he received 1 electoral vote.
They got 1.
Yep. But going back to their ideologies and things like that and what they espouse, all the way back in 1972, Toni Nathan was the first woman who received an electoral vote as well.
Wow.
So, yep. So that was John Hotspur's running mate, was a woman. So, going back to personal liberties and stuff like that, they were really espousing that. So they muddled along in the 1970s, but they really had a big breakthrough, and it doesn't sound very big, but it kind of is, was in 1980 when they ran a fellow named Ed Clark for president, and they received 1 million popular votes. Okay, so that was about 1% of the voting population at the time. But again, compared to all the other third parties that we've had in the past, and they have come and gone, one of the big ones we talked about has been the anti-Masonic Party, right? That was around for a little bit. But they actually received 1 million popular votes during that time. But again, they're pushing that platform that they were running on, making government smaller. Government is in your business all the time, and we need to reduce the size of government. Right. And also, on the other hand, is uplifting and upholding the individual freedoms of other people. Right. So party, again, we're only talking about 50 years, folks. So it's not, the length and the breadth of time that the Democratic and the Republican parties have had in this country. But through the 1990s and the 2000s, the party really started to expand their influence, where, in the 1970s, if you tell somebody you were a libertarian, they had no idea what you were talking about. But get to the 1990s and the 2000s, they became a viable third party in this country, where they started to win elections, at least at the state and local level. And you had people that served in government that were part of the Libertarian Party. Okay, so it really was a big game changer. Coming back to the modern times, which we'll start to dip into what John wants to talk about. 2012, they had a presidential candidate that did garner lots of votes, former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson. And this is when they really started to talk about social freedom, right? Social freedom really became the big platform that was kind of opposed to the other two parties and how they wanted to do business. But again, Gary Johnson ran again in 2016, and they received, again, a party that's been around for less than 50 years, almost 4% of the popular vote.
Yeah, that was a big deal. Big deal for them.
They were taking votes from people. That's a sizable number, when it comes to counting up popular votes and electoral votes. And if you don't know how it works in this country, if you're not from here, go to Wikipedia. We don't have enough time to explain it to you, but it's a process. But yeah, no. So, I mean, in short, that is the short history of the Libertarian Party. Again, I would say a viable third party. Do they have enough clout to stand up against the other two? No, but is their voice heard, and do they actually make an impact? Absolutely, I would say they do.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, one thing that I try to do for the others. So thank you, Joe, for digging through that history. That's good. One thing I try to do is look at their platform. And so if you actually head over to lp.org/platform, you can actually, let me share my screen. See.
I was looking at it. They've got like some dashing dudes on the front page. They're like, "Hey, it's us." No, that's not it. That's a bunch of old people.
Well, let's see. Oh, there's some dashing dudes.
Yeah, like, hello.
Gold ties.
You like gold ties, yes. And lapel pins. Wait, go back. They do like lapel pins.
Oh, do they have lapel pins? Of course
Yeah, go back.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge lapel pin. All right, you got my vote.
Yep. Boom.
All right. But if you go to lp.org/platform, just like we did with the Republican and Democratic Party platforms, you can actually see issue by issue where they stand. Then you start off. It's let's see, it's not long. Here's a PDF. We want to compare pages. It's only a 10 page platform. Look at that, smallest. Oops, you're not sharing. Share this tab instead. A 10-page platform when you print it out. So it's much shorter than the others.
Now, is there PDF? Is it hyperlinked to the actual? Like, can you click on it and go to?
That would be nice if they did,
but it's not. Okay. All right. -2 points there. Yeah.
That is.
All right.
So you can go check that out. And again, one thing that I found interesting is just kind of, again, start with the foundations, like what do they actually stand for, and I think you could hit some of that, but I just want to expand on some of those. So really, like, the Libertarian Party's core beliefs are on the maximum amount of personal liberty, that every individual has the right to make their own choices as long as they do not harm others. And we'll get into non-aggression in a little bit. Right, but it's maximizing liberty, hence the libertarian part of their term. And they used to say, my freedom stops where yours begins. Right, so that's kind of their philosophy there. Also, economic liberty, free markets, voluntary exchange, reducing all sorts of barriers to entry to the market and licensing. And that kind of thing. Try to keep the government out of free voluntary exchange to the greatest extent, which goes into their other pillar, which is limited government. It was interesting. I was reading on some of the history of libertarianism, right? And that has evolved over time as well, because you also have a radical group inside of the Libertarian Party, as just like you do have radical groups inside the other parties, where there are more anarchistic, where they actually believe in they're either minarchist, like they they believe that the government should be so small it doesn't even matter, and it's much, there's much more voluntary exchange, much fewer laws, and then there's some that are, you know, pure, almost anarcho-capitalist, where they say, hey, most of the things the government does we could probably do ourselves in a voluntary way.
Well, and
police, fire department, and all that, right?
To that point, is going out to the market for things is kind of the bread and butter, right? It's like if government is doing this for you, the free market probably could do it better and competitive, and
right. And you could opt out. I think that's the other takeaway is, you know, when the government does it, you can't really opt out necessarily of some of the services the government provides. But at least if the market provided something similar, you could stop paying that. Right?
Yeah.
And a big one. Oh, go ahead, Joe. You were going to say something.
No, okay. You touched on a couple of things that are I think are super important for today in terms of relating this back to Freemasonry. So there's really two big branches when it comes to libertarianism. You've got personal freedom, and then you've got economic freedom, right? And those are the two platforms that they really talk on. And that was kind of going back to the start of the Libertarian Party. Personal freedoms, one of the big things that they were against was the draft. Right, and the draft was
it's just post-Vietnam, right? So
it was in the middle of Vietnam, right?
Oh,
so
that's true.
In Vietnam in 1971, right? So, but the draft was still in full effect in the early 1970s. So that was something that they were really responding to. On the economic side, the thing that really got their goat was moving off of basically the fiat money system. And if you don't know what that is, that's basically money that has the backing of something other than gold or silver or some sort of natural resource, right? Or some precious metal resource. So way back in the day, like I think I've still got for my dad, who was born in the 1920s, I've still got $20 bills that say, you know, inexchangeable for the same amount in gold. So it was a gold backed $20. We have some silver backed bills in my cubby here. But the money that we use now is backed by the trust and confidence in the United States government. So that was something that was directly happened during the early 1970s. I believe it was Nixon.
I think it was Nixon, yeah.
Off of the gold and silver standard at the time. And so now we have money that's based on trust and confidence.
Based on because we say it's worth $1.
Because we say it's worth stuff, yes. And libertarianism was very, very opposed to that. So, but yeah, those two streams kind of inform a lot of the policies that John is starting to talk about now.
The last one that I think is really critical, again, for the conversation as it relates to the fraternity is the non-aggression principle. And so when in doubt, most of their policies, in fact, they say at the very end of their platform, if you don't see a policy or an issue here, go back to the non-aggression principle, which basically says that no one has the right to initiate force on another person. However, you do have the right to defend yourself, right? So you do have the right to initiate force back, or as I tell my kids, don't hit first, but hit last, right? So that, you know, that does go, it does evolve into the whole, you know, they are supporters of defense, like Second Amendment and all that as well. But obviously, they don't want you to initiate force with it. They want you to be able to defend your property.
So it's like the people in The Walking Dead, like that already live in like the barricaded cities. You know, it's not like Rick Grimes who's out there in the wild doing his thing, right? It's the people that live in the fortified cities that are like, hey, we're cool until you try to shoot at us, then we'll blow you away.
Just leave me alone. Yeah, it's the leave me alone party.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you got a jar of pickles? Cool, we'll trade for you. But then you got to go and leave, right? And cause trouble.
Which is funny because for the cover art of this episode, for all of them, we've been doing their political animals, and lately, in the past, I don't know, 5-10 years, the Libertarian Party has adopted the porcupine as a symbol because it basically, you know, it only responds when it's provoked, right? And it'll shoot its little pointy things at you.
What special porcupines are you talking about that shoot out their little things?
They shoot quills. Oh my gosh! Have you not?
They don't shoot them at you.
Oh yeah, they do.
Like if you bite a porcupine, it'll leave you with a whole bunch of quills.
No. Oh, yeah, they can shoot those suckers.
Porcupines that you're talking about.
Little CO2 capsules underneath.
Oh, okay. I don't want to live where you do. So,
all right. Um, so how does this relate to Freemasonry?
I
Uh,
don't know.
I have no clue either, but we'll try. Um, one thing that we, at a macro level, one thing that we alluded to in the previous episodes is that political parties in the United States, in general, try to think of policies in order to have the government control a certain area. Right. So obviously, that's why it's very critical for elections like this time of year, where you want your party to be in power, so that way, you get your way amongst the general population. And so now when you have this third party that comes along and says, well, we actually believe in small government, then now we're talking about maximizing liberty and smaller government. when you look at and so therefore, what we were in the previous episodes, we have said that it's really not easy to say that is Freemasonry Democratic or Republican, because a lot of Freemasonry has to do with taking good men and making them better, and taking personal actions. So a lot of it is your own, on your own accord, to do certain things, to be charitable, and to do that. So in other words, no one is mandating that it happen, or you're not required by law to do these actions.
Yeah, no, I would say something you touched on, which I think, going back to Masonic principles and stuff, I think of the three that we've talked about, the Libertarian Party, I think, ties most closely, if we had to, pick one, ties to the Masonic concept of individual responsibility, right? More so than the other two parties, because they really are that, hey, you are responsible for you and your actions. If you apply some Masonry on top of that, that extends out further, right? It kind of branches out where the Libertarian Party doesn't, to where it's, okay, yeah, you're responsible for your own actions, but you're supposed to go out and be an awesome part of the world and make the world a little bit better than it was before you learned all these wonderful lessons, right?
Exactly. So the first point to make is that where the Libertarian Party maximizing personal liberty, a lot of that could be construed as, well, I've got mine, so leave me alone, right? And so where does charity come in? Where does social welfare systems come in, and all that?
Well, I mean, so
yeah.
Just on that coin alone, so libertarianism by policy is very against welfare systems, right? Like that's part of their, they don't want government giving things to people, right? It's like, that's what they, going back to their economic principles, that's what the free market's for, right? So like, for example, they want to abolish Social Security, or at least give you the option to opt out of Social Security, right? Where as an American or somebody that works in America and you get a paycheck in America, you give into Social Security, you don't have a say in the matter, right? And like I tell my mom, I tell her to thank me every day for having a job, because I'm paying for her Social Security right now.
Right. Exactly.
So, so she does. She calls and says thank you every morning before I have my coffee. But yeah, no, it's kind of opposed to it, right? It's like, in Masonry we have, hey, you need to be responsible for yourself and those around you, and be a decent human being, but then you have to extend that out into the world, right? And espouse those same ideals out into the world, right? So I think that's where the similarity kind of stops when it comes to libertarianism.
Exactly, because libertarians would say that, well, it doesn't say you can't be charitable. It just means, right, that it's left to the individual to be charitable.
We're not obligating you to do so. That's right.
You're not obligated to do so. And so, whereas in Freemasonry, we are taught to be charitable, right? We are given charge, and we are given moral instruction that we should be good citizens. We should do good unto all. We should look at other fellow creatures as ourselves, right? So it's still left to the brother Freemason to decide. However, we're pretty heavy-handed on our instructions to, like, don't be a jerk, and be charitable, and be nice, and help out fellow human beings, especially Freemasons.
Yeah, and I think that just, again, that speaks to the underlying ideals, right? So in libertarianism, you have this priority on individualism, right? And then you go to Freemasonry, not that we're comparing Freemasonry as a political system, but in Freemasonry, you have this idea. It's like, yeah, you're an individual, but you are part of something so much greater than yourself, right? And I think that's the lessons that we try to teach. It's like John's great. John is amazing. John has this awesome little spark inside that is connected to everything else in the world around him. So because of that, John has a responsibility to not be a scummer, right? Out in the world. Whereas I think that kind of it stops at, hey, you're a special little snowflake, and continue to do so.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's the downside to liberty, is that people have the liberty to be jerks as well in society. As long as, again, they're not harming anyone, that, you know, people have the freedom to be greedy, have the freedom to be buttholes, right? It's there is that part that goes the other side of the coin of having the maximum amount of liberty possible.
Right, and it's you know, it's the old adage. It's what's liberty without responsibility, or vice versa, right?
True.
You know, they kind of go hand in hand. So, you know, it's hard to not have one without the other in a perfect society. We don't have a perfect society, you know, and I think we're a long ways away from that. Nobody does. Nobody's figured out the secret sauce yet, but it's a good start. It's a good start.
It's a good start.
Yes,
it's a good start. So let's talk next topic about the non-aggression principle. So as a reminder, again, it's wrong to initiate force on someone, either someone or their property. And
but what if I like it more?
If you ask for it, right? If it's voluntary, you know, whatever floats your boat.
Right on.
But and again, it is okay to defend your person and property as well. So the first thing that comes to mind there actually is a lot of similarity with some of the things that we are allowed to do as Freemasons, right? To defend our person, property, and family, right? We should, you know, stand up for those things that we care for, that are important to us. And so I think there's definitely a very close alignment with the non-aggression principle there, and what we are, you know, we're kind of agreed to uphold those values of defending ourselves and standing up for our fellow brothers. Any thoughts on that?
Well, as a type A aggressive personality, it sounds cute on paper, but you know, I think it does make sense to me. But going back to what you said a couple of minutes ago, that part of personal freedom and, you know, unrestricted personal freedom is that you have the right to be a jerk. Right. So this one for me is kind of hard to focus on, because it's, if the person next to me has the right to be a jerk and they are being a jerk, at what point do I put my individualism aside and tell that person he's being a jerk, or show him that he's being a jerk, or maybe whack him on the head and show him that what he's doing is not right, outside the bounds of him physically harming me or stealing my crap or something like that, right? Like, do we have a responsibility to go correct the bad behaviors of others?
We're still talking about Masons, right?
Both of them.
Exactly, right?
Right.
Because we all know brothers who don't live up to their obligations, or don't live up to, you know, the tenets that we you know, espouse, but they're still brothers. And so we should, as Joe said, right, remind them of their error and try to help them with that.
Right.
To the greatest extent possible.
What if they don't want to listen?
Man, I wish we could just pull that dues card. That would be so nice, wouldn't it? Just you're warming up the hand, like it looks like you're ready to smack somebody.
Get all ethnic with them, you know.
Don't take off your sandal. Come on.
Oh, take off the chancla. It's all over. In fact, I'm wearing sandals today. So
nice.
I'm a parent. Yeah, and that's what I do. But anyway,
always at the ready.
Yeah. So this one for me, like I said, it's there's a gap there, you know, for me, between the two, right? Because again, it's very hard to, you know, if you truly care about the personal responsibility and individualism of others, you shouldn't be okay watching bad things happen, right?
Sure.
You know, so
I think Brother Nathan Tweedy brings up a good point. To Joe's point, we have a responsibility as Masons to whisper wise counsel. As per the non-aggression principle, you can tell them they are wrong, Just don't violate their life, liberty, or property in doing so.
Okay, but what if that whispering wise counsel involves slapping them upside the head?
Let's see. That would violate their life and or liberty. Yes.
I understand what you're saying, Brother Tweedy. I understand it. I haven't processed it fully yet. But it's a journey, right? It's not a destination, it's a journey. So it's
true.
I'm learning. Thank you for teaching me. And I love you, man. Good to see you. What's
next? So the last major point I want to get to, and we can kind of wax on some smaller items, but the structure of the administration of Freemasonry is actually very libertarian in most jurisdictions. So what do I mean by that? Where in the other episodes, we really haven't talked about, some of the hierarchy and administration of the Grand Lodges to lodges and all that. But, at least here in Virginia, and there's other jurisdictions I've been to, there is a lot of freedom that individual lodges have, even to the ability where it's almost like federalism, where they can actually have their own bylaws that can, change the way that they operate with minimal oversight from a centralized Grand Lodge. I see Joe processing that.
I am processing. So to your point, yes. The sovereignty of the jurisdictions of Freemasonry in the United States, right? For the most part, there's 2 Grand Lodges in each state, right? I hate the term regular, and Prince Hall Grand Lodge, right? So for the most part, there's 2 that are recognized in each jurisdiction. It really does span the gamut in terms of a federalism kind of system that you're talking about and full-blown dictatorialism, right? And you can go, across the border that you're closest to, and you'll see a different type of administration when it comes to Freemasonry. Some grand jurisdictions are very hands-off, like, hey, you do Masonry in your lodge the way that you want to do it, and just you got to follow these 3 basic rules, right? The big rules, right? You got to have 3 degrees, the landmarks that are ancient.
How many landmarks are there again?
It depends.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's universal until it's not.
Until it's not, yes. But it depends. But yeah, so it's really interesting. And you go, your jurisdiction may be, again, set up exactly like you said, in a very federal kind of way.
How long is the Texas Masonic Code?
I think over 900 pages. Is that right?
That's what it's hundreds. Yeah.
Virginia is what, in the 200s, I think?
Something like that. Mm-hmm.
I haven't printed it out in a long time. I mean, thank God for Adobe.
Yes.
And searching, because I don't print things out anymore. But yeah, and I do have some other Masonic codes or Ahiman raisons or whatever we want to call them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so yeah, everywhere has its own set of rules, which is, really speaks to our belief when it comes to Masonry, that Masonry is sovereign in the jurisdiction that it's in, right? So there is no overarching superpower that governs all the Masonry in the United States. Sorry, conspiracy theorists, that's just not the case. All you special people on TikTok that say things. Yes, but it depends. But yeah, I kind of like how you said that. But it really is interesting from jurisdiction to jurisdiction how Masonry is administered, and I really like the analogy that you made when we're talking about it. And it really depends. Sometimes I'm surprised, right? Like you go to another jurisdiction and oh, you're not allowed to do that, or you can do that, or wow, you have a bar in your lodge. That's awesome. Just it's interesting how in a very short geographic location, Freemasonry can be very, very vastly different.
That is true. Yeah, because it pushes a lot of those decisions down. So, unlike the United Grand Lodge of England, which has lots of provincial Grand Lodges in other countries, right here in the States, right, we, like you said, each state is sovereign. So that allows for a lot of experimentation. And therefore a lot of autonomy / liberty to change bylaws and try things. Again, you step across state lines, and next thing you know, there's different rules. There's a bar in lodge. Like
you go across the bridge and you're wearing the wrong color socks. Oh my God! You
have to actually undo your apron and then put it on the outside of your jacket as soon as you cross state lines. Nobody wants to see that.
Nobody wants to see that. Yep. Who can button their button on their coat?
You can, but yes,
Not a lot of you,
nice.
myself included. Yes.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Right. So those are the big three. It's about the non-aggression principle. It's about the administration and structure of how Freemasonry is governed, and then how do we compare and contrast individual liberty with moral duty, right, of the individual brother to take liberty one step further and do good unto all, and try to extend kindness to the greatest extent possible without harming themselves or their family.
Yeah, I mean, you said something really interesting there, and I'm going to put you on the spot and say, if you're espousing libertarian ideals, what is the moral duty that you're charged to live by, right?
Oh, so yeah, so what I'm saying, Masons take it a step further to have that moral duty. Right. But if you're purely libertarian, right, then it's the moral duty is really to be left alone, and then all the other things like charity can be handled not just the free market. I mean, you have churches that give billions of dollars and aid all over as well. So it doesn't. When you say free market, it's not just a purely capitalistic system, but it's all volunteer. It's all voluntary, right? So you want to maximize moral duty in other areas: clubs, churches, nonprofit organizations, right? Things that are not necessarily under the auspice of taking money from one group to give it to another group.
Or taking money from the masses to give to, yes. But you're absolutely right. Libertarianism does espouse voluntary associations more so than any other political party, right? It's like, hey, go do this, go join this, give of your time and resources because we don't want the government to.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Do that, yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting, reading again both of the platforms before the previous two episodes, where they'd maximize one part, but they say, but it's still at the end of the day, we really want to, either support this minority group or be mad at these other rich people or other groups. So there's still some conflict there of with the other platforms to say that there's still special emphasis groups that different parties have focus on. Yep. Whereas libertarians are like, whatever, leave me alone.
You didn't tell me that Tweety responded to me.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so as long as I ask, and they say yes, what if I get a glimmer of approval in their eye? Like,
it's not a signed contract.
Okay. All right. Noted. Thanks, cool. Tweety. Appreciate you.
Good stuff. So I'm going to do one last pass through of the platforms. See if there's anything else that jumps out. Again, we're not talking foreign policy as we did in the other groups as well.
Yeah.
Or in the other platforms as well.
I mean, some people talk about libertarianism who are not libertarians that talk about it. It's like they pull the best of the other two parties, right? And into this middle of the road kind of thing. I would disagree a little bit. I think it still leans towards traditional liberalism. You know what I mean?
So they call it classical liberalism. Yes.
Yeah. I was reading some stuff about that, and it's different than the liberalism that is espoused by the Democratic Party, right? It's a different flavor of liberalism, which I found really interesting.
Exactly. All right. Well, good call. I think it's time to start wrapping things up. So, Joe, what are your final thoughts on tonight's episode? Or, more importantly, is Freemasonry libertarian?
It is not. Nor is it Republican, nor is it Democratic.
Really? So we've just wasted 3 hours.
We did.
Coming to no conclusion whatsoever.
Is none of the three, but
none of the above.
You said none of the above. I gotta show my daughter that movie. Yes. But yeah, it's not a, Masonry in this country does not espouse politics, right? Politics serves a particular purpose in this country. Freemasonry does not serve that same purpose. So yeah, it's none. Do we have similarities, or do we have ideologies that run concurrent with all three political parties? Absolutely, we do. Right. But we're not defined by any particular party. That being said, I'm going to be the bad guy in the room is, because lodges are autonomous and can do their own thing. Do you have lodges that act like they are part of a political party? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it really depends on where you go in this country. But yeah, you do. But again, just like we've talked about so many times, Freemasonry is a cross section of the population that makes it up, right? So you're going to get your good apples, you're going to get your not so good apples, and everything in between. But going all the way back to what John said, we're taught these lessons in Freemasonry. It doesn't mean that everybody follows them, right? But we all learn the same. We all learn from the same book. It's just whether you actually take those lessons and apply them in your life is the difference. So, and I think that applies to politics as well. You've got a bunch of people that are members of all three of these parties that live and espouse the ideals, and you have folks that just carry the card and show up every 4 years and, or not, they just sit at home eating popcorn and don't do their thing. But at the end of the day, Freemasonry does teach us to be quiet and peaceable citizens, but be a citizen. And part of being a citizen is making your voice heard. So if you see something that's not right and you want to change it, one of the ways in which you do that is to go out and exercise your right to vote. So go do that.
Oh, vote. I thought you were going to exercise the right to riot or something like that.
No, we did that 250 years ago. We got a nation out of it, and I think we're good.
We got it. We got it once.
We got what we wanted. Yeah. But
awesome.
Yeah,
cool. I agree. So before I get into my final thoughts, I had forgot. I saw in the news a couple years ago, the Libertarian Party has or had a caucus of Freemasons called the George Washington Caucus. So that did exist for a short period of time. I do not know what the status of that is, but that's a good catch there. So we almost took over at least one political party, but we'll try again next year after many beers. So let's see. I think another thing that you said that kind of hit home, where like you said, there's similarities to Masonic ideals in all of the political parties because we are all social creatures, right? And we exist to live in a civil society that has some structure, that has some rules, and we're all going to argue over what those rules are. But we do live in a society that takes care of our own, and so that becomes the question of how do we wish to be governed. And so then I think to the opposite extreme. So there are similarities, but there are differences because every group has their fringe, radical arms of all the parties, and so they're going to take these ideas and take them to their logical or not so logical extremes. And I think that just becomes a natural byproduct of when you start drawing lines in the sand. Then it's the whole no true Scotsman logical fallacy. That's you have to agree 100% with this, right? Or you're not in my tribe. And tribalism is a tough thing. And we like being in tribes. We like finding our tribe. But it's when you become inflexible and when you actually you can actually turn people away or become the thing that you hated and never wanted in the first place. So again, as we come into the election year, let's just be kind to each other, be gentle, right? Respect each other's opinions. Listen more
than talk.
Yes, that's why you have two ears and one mouth.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So with that, it's been a great set of series. I want to thank you all very much for watching. See you next week and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.